I haven't seen Mike Grizzly in a while or heard of him.
Hey, welcome back everyone to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 96, Geopolitics. I'm here with my co-facilitator, Lionel.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? How you doing today, Mike?
I'm good, brother. Yourself?
I am well.
All right, let's get started with the let's get started with the show. If you want to follow along, the docket is in the description below the video. I'm on two different laptops, that's why I'm
Mm.
taking a little bit of time. So, all right, let's set this off, man. So, the first video on the docket is from Combat Approved RT. Pirate's Nightmare, Russia's Special Operations Craft. I'll let the video play for a few seconds, get you guys acclimated with what's about to happen. Um, Ru- Russia, much like the United States, has its own special forces, um, counterterrorism operations, counterintelligence, the whole nine. Very similar to United States structure of security. And what you're seeing right here is a armored speedboat designed to carry Russian special force troops to take down terrorists, counterinsurgency, so on and so forth. And this boat was specially designed to fit in the hull of what they call corvette warships. These are your light attack, fast vessels. I think corvettes are probably the smallest in the fleet, if I remember correctly. I know you want to correct me on it.
Yeah, I think they did say that also.
And boat is capable of going 80 knots an hour, which is extremely fast for any boat. I don't care who makes it or what kind of material it's made out of. That's a lot of speed for a boat, especially carrying these sort of passengers. And the
And
fact that it's
machinery.
armored. Excuse me.
And machinery.
Yeah. You have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah. So, like a lot of the shows we've been looking at from I believe this is RT about the Russians military new machinery um, is impressive. The thought that went into this, knowing that hey, this is going to be needed, some type of stealth boat that will send their special forces into a location in the cloak of night, being able to go 80 kilometers an hour, which is about 50 miles per hour. It said that a boat that fast, it'll be hard for uh, grenade or RPG to hit it, or with the material it's made of, it can resist shells obviously up to a certain size. It carries 10 special forces and 2 boat operators. It's able to lock into the hull of a smaller boat to tow it along. It fits a niche that's really useful, needed in warfare. And that's other capabilities that, well, that's not even mention other capabilities that the video talked about.
Hmm. Yeah, typically you usually see like Navy SEALs using these rubber I think what they call them skinnies.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
Skinnies to for counterinsurgency like in the Horn of Africa. But this thing is armored. Despite the fact that it looks the way that it looks, it's really armored. You couldn't you would need more than a 50 caliber to actually take it down.
Hmm. And they also say it's designed to not be detected, to be hidden from radar detection.
Right, because it's so shallow. It's such a shallow footprint. It doesn't really put out any heat either because it has these jets instead of propellers on the back. So it's pumping out water through these jets and not through a propeller that would actually pick up have it picked up on sonar or anything like that.
And also at toward the end, it says that it can be turned into a remotely operated vessel. So when it drop off the 10 up to 10 special forces, that it can cover them with fire.
Suppressor, yeah, suppressor fire.
Yeah. So someone's is operating it remotely, which gives the the special forces even more capability to do their job, because you got this military militarized small boat on the shore, and it can dock in shallow water,
Hmm.
give you cover with fire.
Hmm.
So then it'll pick you up when you're
That too.
done.
Yeah, yeah, that's genius.
Yeah,
That's
it
very.
is.
I don't. I know the United States does a lot of great innovations with their military, but I haven't seen anything like that from the United States military. Have you?
Yeah, every time you look at the, granted, every time we look at Navy movies or commercials, hey, join the Navy,
Hmm.
SEALs, this skinny boats. I don't know of any Navy ship that has these type of boats tugging along with it in its hull, such as
Hmm.
frigates or anything else. Which is maybe why we see the have a picture of the Navy SEALs going along with these skinny tubes. Maybe they see those as a more stealth way of getting in and out, since that's their MO, stealth operations, special operations. But
Hmm.
this right here, I feel, the machine gun that in which it's on the whole, this boat, I feel, is will help get the job done more efficiently. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's actually smaller than the other PT boat that you see, the green one. And just a tidbit of information that the Russians actually gave the Filipino Navy, um, those boats recently this
Mm.
summer. Yeah, I think they gave them about 10 or 15 of them.
Then a docking mechanism that they talk about, which is the same as a jet landing on a spacecraft, where it hooks steel wires for it to slow down. They use that same concept to deploy and redock the this special operations boat. Is ingenious, because now you not only do you not need the surface ship to be close to the target in which you're going to. It could be out in the ocean undetected, or another military thing. Okay, it's not coming safe. So now you have this really hard to detect boat coming ashore with these special operation forces doing a thing, and now they can go back out to sea after they complete the mission, go back out to sea and redock with this boat, even if the boat is not stationary or moving. They
Mm-hmm.
can still redock, which I thought it's more of an ingenious idea, the docking mechanism.
Yeah, and that's actually necessary for deployments, right? Typically, you like we were talking about earlier. You have American Navy SEALs use these skinnies, these ribs dropped off the side of a vessel, um,
Hmm.
and that thing can go upside down on you and probably drown you at the same time too.
Yeah.
With this boat, that's like a plops in the water, it's ready to go,
Hmm. It's a lot
and
of things.
it can start the motor before it even hits the water. So as soon as it hits the water, it just takes off.
Right, right. And then a lot of things can go wrong with that plastic thing, the plastic boat. It's not as sturdy in high waves and rough seas
Hmm.
as this may be.
Hmm. Look how submerged it is as well. It's only a few inches above the water if you really
Hmm.
look at it. Whereas the other PT boat that they have, I think that holds like maybe 16 troops in it or something to that effect. And they kind of like pile out of it at the front, at the bow. But that boat in particular is only a few inches above the water, so it even when it's cruising in, um, it doesn't make any noise. It's kind of silent. Um, it's not really somewhat detect. It's not all that detectable, so they can
Mm.
kind of pull up. No need to anchor and just kind of drop overboard and just swim their way into the destination as you're about to see in the video right now.
Yeah, yeah. And also, just like that, the helicopter that we covered a couple of weeks ago, this boat can go side to side also,
Mhm.
which is nice. I mean, I don't know of any dire situations where you may. Well, I guess if you maybe run aground, I don't know, but any dire situations in which you may need to go back on side to side, but that doesn't mean that it's not useful.
Mhm. Yeah, but then again, the boat, it can actually be remote controlled, so um, that boat can peel off and get out of the way from any sort of oncoming fire.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And Paul Bryan in the chat says he read several articles that the new U.S. Navy has a boat for SEALs that's comparable to this, brand new for 2018,
Mhm.
carries 12 to 15 SEALs plus a three-man crew.
Yeah, it's the same as that PT boat that you see, the green one in the beginning of the video. That was
Okay.
too big. It was too big to fit inside the Corvette.
I see what you're saying. That's what
Yeah,
you're saying.
it's a very similar boat, and that's what that PT boat does. It has about 15 room for 16, and they all just pile out of the front as a landing craft.
Okay, but this one, it's much more combat useful itself.
Right, right. It's used for pursuit, so it's used for chasing pirates down in
Yeah,
the Horn of Africa and all these other places. I mean, look
sure.
at the way how they look at the way how they pull out of the boat or they pile out of the boat.
Right here, yeah. This sounds like some a country needs to purchase from Russia.
Yeah, I think a lot of countries are actually purchasing these things. I know
Mm.
that the Philippines got them this summer. Um, North Korea, I think, has a couple of them themselves. I know China has quite a few of them. Um, and I think Iran has some on order,
Mm.
which I find to be very interesting too. So,
Hmm. Hmm. Now the other um, boat toward the end of the video, that itself is impressive. The orange one,
oh
the
yeah,
yeah,
the yeah, you're talking about the
rescue one.
submersible, not the submersible, but the tugboat.
Yeah, the
Not a tugboat. It's the what do they call
rescue.
that? The rescue craft. That's what it
Yeah,
is. Yeah,
yeah,
rescue
rescue
craft.
craft.
Yeah,
Even if it capsizes, well, it can't capsize because it just roll on over.
right.
I like that. And then they actually tested. Well, after they saw it, they actually tested it out. They got inside, strapped themselves in a 4-point harness, and they went around.
Hmm.
I like that guy. He's really hyper. He's really let's do this.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah. He's really gun ho. Yeah, enthusiastic and gun ho about it.
Hmm.
I wasn't expecting him to actually get in there. After they showed it, I wasn't expecting him to get in there and really experience it. Okay, they got them AK with AK-47s,
I think those
the
are AK-74s.
74s, with
I think
the
that's what Russian military uses now AK-74.
mm, Paul Bryan asks, are the water jet engines for better handling? I don't know how the handling of water jet engines, but what Mike just said, they don't put off as much heat than the propeller engines.
I think it's for speed of deployment.
Mm.
So, but they did show that it did get caught like in seaweed or something like that. They could pull it out.
Oh yeah, the little compartment. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that proves that this is water jets are about kicking out speed at a high rate. So it's moving a lot more faster than a propeller based boat like the ribs, like the skinny ribs.
I see what you're saying.
A way they can actually improve upon the design is actually to actually it's already done. I think they talk about it in the video, but they can tell if there's going to be shallow rocks,
Hmm.
so they don't run aground. Like I
Okay.
guess there's some kind of detection on it. I can tell it, the navigation path to take.
Yeah. All in all, it serves a purpose. It
Yeah.
definitely serves a purpose, and they can sell it to different countries. They are dealing with their own um, regional um, troubles. I don't know. It does serve a purpose, and this is where they talk about where they can unlatch a hatch and
Hmm.
um, take out any twigs or seaweed that may get caught in the propellers.
Hmm. In the jets, not
Yeah,
propellers.
yeah, jets.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very useful. It's not non-useful. It's very useful.
Hmm. And this is just a portion of the video where they're talking about how reliable it is, how sturdy it is. He takes a
Hmm.
30-pound sledgehammer and just goes at it. Um,
It's like what's that? Like a polyurethane? I think they say something like that.
yeah, it's foam wrapped around polyurethane.
Mm. And the stopping capability, yeah, the stopping range is good too.
Hmm. It goes from like 80 knots an hour to down to zero in just a matter of seconds. So
Hmm.
this is like this is like a high speed Crown Victoria that the police use on the street.
That's a good point. With the interceptor. Now, this he said the stopping length is the stopping speed is like 2 lengths of the boat, so that's good. It's two
Yeah,
lengths. This will be the Crown Vic. Yeah.
I think this is your favorite part right here, where they kind of tip the
Mm,
buoy over. But they're talking about a full size ship actually being tipped over.
wow. And
But
that.
I don't know if you want to tip a Corvette over, but maybe like a OPV or offshore patrol vessel,
Mm,
so that could do brown water combat. You don't want a bigger ship taking you out, right? So we heard about, I mean, we've discussed this on the Brain Trust, but Chinese warships running into American warships, and another one last week uh, colliding with an oil tanker and being
mm.
tipped over. It just silly things that shouldn't happen in terms of military, and especially the Navy. Is actually happening. And looking at this video, like the Russians are trying to figure out a way to stop the ship from being um, capsizing.
Yeah, yeah. And through the videos we've been watching, I get the sense that the Russians They want their vehicles to be sturdy and keep going even after
Hmm.
it takes on heavy damage. It can keep going. It can keep completing the mission.
Right.
And this is what they actually get in. This is good.
From an asymmetric standpoint, this is what Russia has to deal with, right? You're outnumbered by NATO. You're outnumbered by the Americans in terms of firepower and vehicles, or vessels, and so on and so forth. You got to figure out a way to be resilient.
Right. That's good. That's a good way of putting it. They have to be resilient.
I mean, you lose one ship, that can cause a cascade of other effects. So,
Hmm. Which means everybody else have to take on the slack.
hmm,
But if you cause other people to lose ships, and when people, I hear people when they say in the movies, I'll die for my country, da da da. And in the military, they tell you, the goal isn't to die for your country. The goal is to get the other person to die for their country. Yeah. And if I say it to say, if they can get the other people, the other person, to lose ships and other things, then that makes their fleet stronger because now they're battling a smaller fleet.
right. I mean, we can beat the drum all night about this, but with the way the Russians are thinking, they're thinking from how do we survive versus how Western European countries think. Well, how can we take you down? Right, the
Hmm.
whole aggressive, offensive mindset that they have, where just bring a sledgehammer to a nail, right? Every nail needs to be hammered down, and things of that nature, and that's how they view. Actually, here's the warship right here, right in the video. That's the
Oh
warship
yeah,
that they're trying to
yeah.
design so that it's not able to be capsized.
The Evon popping in, it's an icebreaker. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. All right,
Mm.
we'll get on to the next article. All right, this one is from RT. UK Defense Secretary blasts the idea of creating EU army as crazy. Basically, the Defense Secretary for the United Kingdom, which is going through its own Brexit right now and is supposed to be completed by June of 2019, is saying the Europeans are crazy for trying to come up with their own army in reference to NATO. If you're already part of one, um, if you're already part of one military family, then why would you need another one? Is basically what they're saying.
Hmm. Yeah. If they go on with this EU army, then I don't think NATO. I don't foresee NATO surviving because a lot of the countries in NATO are European countries, right?
Excuse me.
A lot of the countries in NATO are European countries, not all, but a lot of them are.
Yeah,
So,
just about.
yeah. So if they break
Except for
off,
America, and Colombia
right?
and Turkey.
So if they break off and do their own thing, so NATO just consists of those three countries, and Turkey and America is not seeing eye to eye, and Colombia is in it for specific reason, which is Venezuela. So I don't see NATO lasting long if they pull this off.
So the question now becomes who's going to be the first one to pull out?
It looks like France and then Germany.
To the According to the video, Germany only spends 1.2% of their 2% requested budget. Um, France spends 1.8% of their 2% budget. um, and America pays the rest. So your tax dollars are actually subsidizing the security of pale skinned people in their military. But when it comes to Africa, we don't subsidize any of those any of their defense and their security. I don't feel sorry for I don't feel sorry for these people anyways, because they brought these issues upon themselves.
Um, you I think I broke out a little bit. You said who specifically?
The Europeans.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. And another question is, okay, who will? I understand Britain is because of their Brexit. That's going to be due to be done by June of next year, 2019. And then let's say the European Union, not the European Union, but the European Army starts to solidify. I think they'll try to be a part of it because quite literally they're on an island by themselves. So you have the mainland of Western Europe forming this European army, and who knows, maybe some Eastern European countries, not far East European, but close, relatively close to Eastern European countries because of Russia. The main talking point of them forming this European army is to protect themselves from Russia. And
They also said China, United States.
hmm, and that's interesting. They said the United States because if do you think Britain would just be by themselves if you have America on your one side, albeit it's a quote unquote across the pond, and you
Hmm.
have the mainland Western Europe on your other side, and you are an island, and you're trying to you are out of the European Union, and you're
Hmm.
trying to solidify your your old colonial assets, your Commonwealth. Do you
Hmm.
think they'll stay by themselves, or do you think they'll try to partner with either America or try to get into this European army?
Well, they can't be a part of it if they're out of the EU.
Right. That right. So they it seems like, you know, they I wonder how they wiggle themselves out the situation if this comes into fruition.
Well, keep in mind that the UK is a nuclear power. I don't think anybody. I don't think that anybody's going to be landing tanks on their shores anytime soon. Although there are there was an incident in 1984 during the Falkland War with Argentina,
Hmm.
and Argentina almost destroyed the United Kingdom. Sank a couple of their warships, took out a lot of their infantry on the Falklands. So
Right.
they almost lost that war. Very, very close. It was the incompetence of the Argentine Air Force and Navy that actually cost them the war, because the United States didn't come to their defense, even though they were not that far away.
Now, Britain doesn't have the manpower, and B, they don't have the man. A, they don't have the manpower, and B, they don't have the manpower to operate the military machinery and all and everything else that goes into fighting a battle or being having personnel that operate, sonar, things like that. They don't have the military, the manpower. Now, I've been hearing reports that they've been recruiting Africans from their past colonial assets and even Asians to in their military because not be, well to beef it up manpower wise and to tempt them with citizenship. So to me, that seems like they're trying to beef up their military with by manpower because they know they are literally an island and they're going to be out this Brexit deal, so they can quickly find themselves between a rock and a hard place.
Right, and that could actually break up the whole entire United Kingdom because Scotland wants to stay in the EU. So there's a referendum that's going to be on the table
Mhm.
soon, and then you have Ireland proper, the Republic of Ireland that basically says, well, we're not really all that,
Cool.
especially, yeah, we're not all that cool with you. We still remember slavery, right? They
Right.
still remember all that stuff. So there's a possibility that you may see the Irish prime minister, shake hands with Putin.
Ooh, if that happens, then Brit England or Britain, what do you call it? Uh, they have to join a European army. They have to. They have to link up with somebody.
They won't have to link up with anybody, but they politically they'll be isolated on the geopolitical stage. They'll be isolated. You know, it's not as if they have a whole lot of friends because they didn't do a whole lot for everybody else. When you think about slavery and how they promised a lot of slaves, a lot of black slaves that, oh well, we'll give you citizenship if you fight on the side of the British, and they played those people. That history hasn't gone away.
Yeah, and a lot of them were American, black American slaves, and not to laugh at that, but they did. I'm laughing at the fact that they did play a lot of people. They didn't keep their promise to a lot of things, and people don't, people do not forget that a lot of these wars, a lot of these animosities from one country to one country to another country is because of history,
Hmm.
and because of the continuation of these countries disrespecting these other countries per history, and history dictate this, history dictate that. So like you said, the Irish didn't forget, they right across the road from the English, they not are not going to forget that. And a lot of people in Britain's past colonial assets didn't forget what happened. It's sorry to say, well, yeah, sorry to say, people wait for the right time for payback. Even with China and Japan, Japan has never apologized, and China's not do not forget that. You don't forget that
Hmm.
at all, especially if it lasts for so long. You come on, man, you are not going to forget that, nor should
Yeah.
you forget it.
What were you gonna say?
I said, nor should someone forget it.
And this is the problem with Europeans. They kind of shoot themselves in the foot. They don't think long term. Well, they think long term, but they don't think that there's any consequences in their way of thinking.
Mm,
Um, they could have aligned themselves with Africa had they done it the right way. Instead, they did it from a colonialist standpoint, and that really hurt them for the long term because people don't forget about what you did
right,
and how it went down. And Latin America is not too keen on the British either. So, especially after the Falklands War, they are pretty much backing Argentina on this one. They're like, you should get out of here.
right, and that was not long ago. That was in the '80s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was under Margaret Thatcher.
right,
That was her war.
and that was what?
That was her war.
Okay, okay. And even if different countries' politicians say, well, we're going to be buddy buddy with the British, the people of those countries are not going to be too happy about that, which will a lot of these non-American countries, they will straight up burn some stuff down if you
Well,
make the wrong moves.
they have a military to military agreement with Canada.
Hmm,
So if Britain is under attack, Canada has to come to its defense, and if Canada is under attack, then Britain has to come to its defense. So, there was a strategy that the United States had to attack Canada at one point, and take it from them. You know, that would have drugged the British into a war with the United States during
hmm,
World War Two.
that's
Well, actually
interesting.
during World War One. Actually during World War One, because they didn't recognize Canada as a nation state until they gave black men the right to vote. So
Ooh,
the United States.
okay. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but most of Canada's population live close to the border to of Canada and America.
Yeah, most of Canada is not it's not habitable, so
Mm,
it's uninhabitable. So the Yukon and all that stuff is not really a place where there's any way for them to defend. Um,
right.
the Russians have the bear, the Russian bear, that could actually fly right over their airspace and basically take it out in one swoop.
Yeah. That's
So
why a
I
lot
mean,
of
yeah. So I mean, Canada is just they're too soft, from a culture standpoint. They're too soft, and then ain't nobody take you seriously with your Canadian bacon and stuff like that.
right.
So
Get that leaf out my way. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And to be honest, a lot of them speak just like us. They got American accents. Um, speak, uh, eat, eat up American culture. Only thing they
Mm-hmm.
got is that what poutine, whatever that is, that fat.
Wu-Tang.
Yeah, yeah, that, yeah, the gravy and mayo thing. But Western Canada is full of Asians, and and a lot of them people speak French. So, but that's not a lot of people. A lot of the
Mhm.
people live around the Great Lakes region, above Minnesota, that area. So,
That's French Canada, though, right? You're talking about Quebec and those areas, right?
yeah, 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 Western Canada, yeah,
Yeah, they're very friendly with the French. So
right,
if the EU army is to take place by the French, you don't think that they're going to start recruiting from there?
yeah, yeah.
That,
They,
they'll,
they,
they'll break up the whole entire Canada and have it all messed up.
right. A lot of them people still speak literally speak French.
Hmm. French territory, old French territory. I mean, I think there's a little bit of difference in like dialect and um grammatical areas, but other than that, they're pretty much aligned with the French. I don't foresee them joining the British anytime soon. They don't speak the language. They don't care about that.
Right.
Montreal, those areas. So but let's move on to the next article.
And yeah, yeah, do that. But as you do, as you move on, what'd be funny is they say like Canada go to war, and people got to join the military. You're gonna see a lot of Canadians running into running across the border. It's Buffalo, New York, and Detroit.
Down Niagara Falls, going to go over Niagara Falls with a barrel.
Right. Yeah, a rubber barrel.
I mean, the United States is bold enough to give Taiwan two shiny new frigates with their crackerjacks.
Hmm.
So it's not uncommon that another country may usurp your territory. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
Let me hit this next article. I hope hope
What is anti-gravity at?
I think he's driving.
Uh,
This one is from CM or NBCNews.com. Argentine Navy submarine found a year after disappearing with 44 on board.
uh,
Horrible way to go out. I'll read the first paragraph and just we kind of summarize from there. The Argentine Navy submarine that went missing a year ago off the country's Atlantic coast was found by a private company involved in what had been a massive search for the vessel and its 44 member crew. The Navy announced by tweet on Saturday. The submarine Ara San Juan had a set position on November 15th, 2017. It was found some 2,625 feet below the ocean surface by a marine tracking contractor, Ocean Infinity. The disappearance gripped the nation's attention as the government struggled to provide information about the tragedy. At the time of the disappearance, the Navy said water that had entered the submarine snorkel caused its battery to short circuit. Navy officials said international organizations helping to search for the missing vessel a year ago detected a noise that could have been submarine imploding. I'm not a Navy guy, so I'm gonna turn this over to you. What's your thoughts on this?
yeah. Well, as I read the article, it was just basically saying also that the Argentine doesn't put a lot of money into their military, which means
Hmm.
less money for the branches. which means less money for specific uh, sections of the branches. So I'm guessing their submarines were not built too tight. Um, when an American submarine is um, is in trouble, it'll emergency blow, meaning the ballast tanks. There's two ballast tanks, and this is known. I mean, you can look this up. I don't know. So there's two ballast tanks in the front and two ballast tanks in the back. A submarine is a ship that sinks on purpose, which means it takes on water in the ballast tanks, which helps it go to whatever depths it needs to go to. An emergency blow is when you pressurize those ballast tanks and you push the water out and it becomes a basketball. When you try to take a basketball under the water, it just pops back out. That is the same reaction. So maybe their submarines that have emergency blow capabilities, and also American submarines, you're able to escape in an emergency way through the sail. There's ways you can escape that. I don't know if their submarine had those capabilities, those emergency escape capabilities. Also, you the boat can shoot off beacons. I think the article said they did that. They shot off beacons to have rescue missions go and search and find them. It said that the water short circuited the battery. So I don't know if it was nuclear or if it was diesel power, also like a backup to the backup. It had a week's worth of air after it sank. I don't know if it had air scrubbing capabilities that will scrub the air of any impurities to recycle the air. It just sounds like their submarine fleet was not wrapped too tight. And it reminds me of early submarines, like in the 17 1800s, where they were almost death missions. It was a high probability that if you got in a war or if the submarine wasn't built right, you were going to die. And it also said that they heard a sound of it imploding, and that's highly possible because for every foot you go down, there's 44 or 45, I believe 45 pounds of pressure for every foot you go down. So when you see those submarine movies of, oh, the ceiling is coming down, that's because the ocean is in all sides of the submarine like a pop can. And if there's a leak, it can implode on itself. So meaning if it's 2,000 some feet under the surface of the water, multiply that by 44 pounds of pressure. That's how much pounds of pressure is squeezing and continuously squeezing on the hull. And if there's a leak, which means water can get, then it's just going to implode like you squeezing an empty pop can, because that air is going to escape and the water is going to come in and it's just going to just crumble up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. When I initially heard this, and said it off the Atlantic coast, that led me to believe that this may have been the British. I mean, we just talked about in the last article that the British had went to war with Argentina in 1984,
Hmm.
the Falklands War, which lasted a few months, and the British were almost defeated had they, had they not got their resupply, they would have been finished. And the Argentine Navy actually lost a frigate too. The British had sank one of them. So I'm saying all this so people understand the background as to why this is important. The Argentine Navy actually played a critical role in securing and actually almost taking that territory of the what they call the Maldives, actually the Falkland Islands that the British call. And the British taxpayers are actually it's actually up for referendum right now, or was up for referendum before, um, about whether or not the British taxpayers should actually pay for this small little island that doesn't really serve any purpose, and it doesn't really belong to them. You know, they basically just took it. And the back to the article is that the Argentine Navy. I just thought initially that the British had to sink that. You know that submarines just don't go missing like that.
No, no.
This whole idea of like the hunt for Red October, with Sean Connery and this whole Hollywood thriller. That's all smoke and mirrors. We're talking about governments. We're talking about militaries. You lose a submarine, you send everything out there to go look for it.
Right. Because it costs too much to build, and it's a tremendous asset. It's a submarine, stealth. You can go behind enemy lines if you quiet enough. It's a tremendous asset comparable to a surface ship like a frigate. You lose a frigate, you'd be mad, but it's not a warship, submarine. So they put a lot of money into these submarines because the material to make it sturdy against all that pressure is some incredible material. Yeah. Now, Julian Maximin II said he read that the sub had been cut in half before and refitted together again. Now, you have those where submarines are, the submarine is, it's brought up to speed with its hull. They replace weak spots, and if it's a nuclear submarine, put more rods. What's those rods called? I forgot the name of the name of the material. Put more rods where it can create energy through the nuclear power. But
Mm-hmm.
to get to that, you got to cut the thing. Oh, I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that made it sink like that. I don't know. I don't know.
Plus, looking at the because they would have detected that, right? If you would have saw water, if you would have saw the submarine taking on water, you would have probably turned the thing back around and said, "Let's get the fuck out of here,"
Right,
right?
right, right. Or escape really quick, or sent out. Hey, we got a link here. Yeah, yeah. Ah,
Because
it's hard to
they
tell.
wasn't that far away from shore. They were 270 miles off the Argentine coast,
Mm,
right? So I mean, driving wise, that seems like a lot. Walking wise, that seems like a lifetime for you to walk 270 miles. But for a submarine or a warship, that's really not a lot. You're really not that far away. That's a rock store away, from base. You didn't really get that far. So they
something.
say they say they heard an implosion or some kind of explosion beneath the surface. I, I'm, you know, I just think that there's more to the story that's not being told.
Yeah, yeah,
Somebody messed up somewhere. I don't think it was the Argentine Navy. I think that it was external forces. Where they were sailing was very close to or around that vicinity of the Maldives. Actually, let me bring up a map so that
yeah.
we can actually have an understanding.
I think it's the Maldives. It's they call it something because the Maldives is next to India.
Well, I think I'm pronouncing it wrong. So let me actually pull it up.
Yeah. And if anybody looked at the scenery of the Falkland Islands, it's some beautiful scenery. Very beautiful scenery. Let me look. It is. Yeah,
Malvinas.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was pronouncing it wrong, but let me share my screen.
It's NBC. NBC News.
Mhm. So let me zoom out from here.
Yeah, Malvinas.
Yep. So here's Argentina, South America, and Where I'm putting my cursor right here is actually where the islands are. Falklands.
Yeah, so that would be around 200 some miles off the coast of Argentina.
Just about where it sank.
Hmm. You got a
If I
point.
remember, yeah, if I remember correctly, the British have a airstrip there that they created after the war. Uh, they put a couple of tornadoes on there, fighter jets, and they also have a cutter vessel there as well as anti-submarine warfare capabilities on that island
Hmm.
to prevent the Argentine military from taking the island again from them. Now, a couple of years ago, I think like in 2013 or maybe 2012, it was discovered that there's oil and natural gas on that island,
Hmm.
and that the British are going to exploit it. So there was a referendum that was going to go back into place to um, to put it back on the ballot when Christina Fernandez was actually the president of Argentina, and there was talks about rebuilding the Argentine military to improve it. Now, back in 1984, guess who was supplying weapons to the Argentine military against the British?
U.S. Navy, not the U.S. Navy, but U.S. or Russia.
Israel.
Oh, it yeah, everything.
Israel had a bone to pick. The minister of defense was actually had a bone to pick with the British and wanted to
So
take out the British.
he was supplying arms to Argentina to do his quote unquote dirty work.
Absolutely, they're a strong ally to to Argentina.
My God, Israel is into everything, aren't they?
They gave him those Mirage fighter jets, uh, hip, torpedoes and artillery, um, mortar fire. So they were basically pounding on the British with Israeli weapons.
Hmm.
So it just goes to show, like we discussed before, that you don't have permanent friends. You have
Permanent
you know
interests.
you have permanent interests. It was actually the British that voted on a on you know Sykes-Picot to give Israel the to make Israel the state over Palestine, and then come to find out the same people that you help liberate to have an illegal state actually want to take you out too.
Hmm.
So all this kumbaya stuff, that we're seeing in the media, Black Lives Matter and all this other stuff, people don't really know their history.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so could happen.
Golly.
Could happen to anybody here. So
Yeah, but I don't think, like I always say, I don't think a lot of people realize you don't have permanent friends, you have permanent interests.
yeah, let's hit the next article. Unless you have something else you want to contribute. All right, this article is from Haaretz.com. Analysts: Putin's interests in Syria and Lebanon are limiting Israel's military options. Playing chess with Hezbollah is one thing. Trying to figure out what Putin wants in Syria and perhaps also in Lebanon, even as Hezbollah is trying to manufacture weapons there, is a completely different challenge. One reason for Israel. One reason for Israel's exceptional caution in dealing with Hamas in the Gaza Strip is its growing concern over the northern front. Though it may sound like a thread-based excuse, this seems to be one of the in the article actually wants me to pay $8 a month, and the Brain Trust does not have that in their budget. So I kind of get the gist of where they're going. Um, you have anything you want to say about this?
Okay. Putin have interest in Syria and Lebanon. Okay, obviously Israel, like we just said, Israel's in everything. They see they're protecting them. Okay. In their eyes, they're protecting themselves from the surrounding countries such as Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and so forth. Which means they're going to place militaries very close to those Golan Heights. They took over the Golan Heights some time while ago from Syria. But Putin, I'm guessing Putin has interest in Syria and Lebanon because of the rebuilding
Mm-hmm.
efforts,
Mm-hmm.
which means money is involved. And when money is involved, people get backstabby, you want to say. So Israel can't fight Russia's there, they're not. It's not going to happen. So yeah, so it's going to limit their interest in these areas and expanding Israel and is Israeli borders. So I don't see them fighting Putin and Russia anytime soon. That's a suicide mission.
Right, because where do you retreat to? Where are your where are your alternatives to escape to?
Especially
It's
if you already made enemies of your neighbors.
right. Hezbollah is a very strong military. Um, I would say that you have your hands cut out with the Palestinians because you're fighting a guerrilla war and not a traditional military war. Um, then you still have to deal with Syria. You're occupying the Golan Heights. Egypt may not actually be all that accepting of what you're doing. The Arab world wouldn't be all that accepting of a conflict like that, right? You still have a lot of oligarchs who want to or who have an interest in seeing that Israel disappears. Not so much as killing people, and that's not what we're advocating on this channel. But what I'm saying here is, in my observation, is that the state of Israel they consider to be illegitimate, and they would like to see the state disappear um, through a political means, right? So to see it destabilize. Israel thinks that they can go into Lebanon, fly over Lebanese airspace, and do what they want. And what Putin is saying is that those S-400 missile systems now in place, and the S-300 too, cover Lebanon, Lebanese airspace. So now you can't fly into Lebanese airspace and do what you want because the
Right.
radar actually covers all of that. Um, but what is important to understand is that there's actually natural gas and oil off the coast of Lebanon. So right in Lebanese waters, the Russian energy minister from and as well as I think Luke Oil, which is a Russian it's either Luke Oil or Gazprom, Gazprom. Um, they discovered energy resources inside the Mediterranean, outside of right off the coast of Lebanon. So they're going to start drilling within the next year. If you decide as Israel, if you have an operation that's going to fly over Lebanese airspace and you knock out Russian energy minister who happens to be there, or Russian assets that are on the ground pumping oil or gas out of the ocean, now you're gonna have a big problem. So
Very big problem.
Russia will allow Turkey to shoot down a jet. That's fine. They're okay with that. They'll take that loss and eat it and say whatever.
Right.
They lost the reconnaissance jet plane not too long ago, a couple months ago. So now they're saying if we lose another one, you know, then all bets are off. And if you think about taking out our S-300 and S-400 missile systems, there'll be consequences for that.
Mm-hmm.
So what does Israel really think they're going to do, and we know what Putin's going to do. We know what his next move is going to be.
Putin ain't playing.
What'd you say?
I said Putin is not playing.
Yeah, you don't play with people like that. Not Putin. I mean, you can play
No.
that. You can play that way with the Saudis. with the Jamal Khashoggi murder, but you can't play that way when it comes to Russia and their assets. They take that stuff very seriously.
Yeah. Nah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Nah. That's like I said. It's a suicide mission. You don't have the just the pure manpower. To put Russia. Russia is a city in Russia is the size of. I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I mean, you can almost see a city in Russia is the size of Israel itself. I mean, the size of Russia is huge. A
Hmm.
state in Russia is engulfs Israel. It's like fighting one state in Russia. Albeit I know much parts of Russia are not, habitable, but still,
Hmm.
you 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 you're not gonna win that fight. And then you got China. Come on now. You have to be very. Whew, yeah. I This is a bully taking your lunch money right here.
Hmm. Let's check the chat, see if there's anything in the chat. Um,
Jeff says there is no way the U.S. will let Israel no longer exist. Israel gave us to the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. I don't agree with that.
no, they don't. It's Turkey that gives U.S. access to the Mediterranean. That's where they have their air base at. Well, at least they had their assets there, but they're a NATO power. Israel is not a NATO power, so therefore, um, there's no real there's no real need for Israel if you really think about it from a military standpoint. Israel doesn't fight any of the United States wars for it. They weren't in Iraq. They weren't in Afghanistan. I mean, what does Israel really offer the United States in terms of security?
Nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing that Israel does. Question: Is Argentina the place where the Nazis fled to? Yes,
Hmm.
many Nazis fled there, and they're still being. I'm pretty sure most of them are dead at this point. But
But their offspring still there.
yeah, they were in Brazil too. There's strong contingency in Brazil too. So in Colombia. So this article is from Newsweek.com. Russian military warns U.S. must immediately withdraw from Syria's south, claiming conditions there are like concentration camps. The Russians would know better about this, right? Read the first paragraph. Russia has called on the United States to withdraw from a base established by the Pentagon in southern Syria, alleging the presence runs contrary to international law. Colonel General Mikhail Mistinev, head of Russia's National Defense Control Center, addressed a joint session Friday on Russian and Syrian committees tasked with returning Syrian refugees and blamed the U.S. for deteriorating humanitarian conditions in the Rukban refugee camp. The settlement is located with a U.S.-controlled security zone surrounding the Al Tanf base on the harsh border of Syria and Jordan, and has witnessed starvation deaths due to lack of supplies. So the United States is basically using this refugee camp as basically a human shield. Basically, you're not going to bomb it because the
No.
United States is there, because the refugees are there, but they're also letting the refugees starve to death.
It's hard to say, but that's a strategic move. Because if you bomb it, you are creating your war crimes.
Hmm.
Hey man, you bombing innocent people, and then someone say, well, you were amongst those innocent people. They're gonna say, well, prove it. um, but You let the people starve, even and God only knows, when people hungry, prostitution and all this stuff. Um, yeah, that's a doozy right there. I understand why they're doing it because it's a shield. You're not going to just bomb just civilians because
Hmm.
then other countries will look down on you or side-eyed at you. Hey, hey man, you doing bad, but still, no one says when you letting people starve, you know, and it's war. So people, this is a yeah. I mean, it's like you damn if you do, if you damn if you don't. But
Right,
if you don't, then you get hurt.
right. But the United Nations is supposed to send, the HCR, which is the United Nations, or the HRC, Human Rights Council, down there to distinguish, what the conditions are, to determine what the conditions are, on the ground for Syrians, and for the United States to be in control over those areas and not leave, and then turn back around and say, we're not leaving. Basically,
Hmm.
we're here. We're here. We're not leaving until, um, the Iranians leave. That's BS. What
Mm,
does the Iranians have to do with the refugees on the ground?
nothing. Nothing. It's just an excuse. Well, we know that, but it's just an excuse. Really, it's all it is, an excuse. And they in southern Syria, and they they just want to be in this war. It seemed like uh, the benefits. We don't know the benefits of being in this war. Uh,
To destabilize Syria, but they have all these intentions on quitting quagmire, so to speak, around the country, where you have the Kurds in the north, you have refugees in the south, you have um, military bases along the east of the Euphrates River, just all types of messes that the United States is creating around Syria. That's not really unnecessary.
yeah, and I mean, mm, I can understand why they're doing it to keep the area from being a threat in the future, but
Mhm.
at the rate they're doing this, you're gonna shoot yourself. Well, you're gonna shoot your foot off. At the rate you're doing this, you're losing human power, which means you're losing manpower, which means people are going to question why they're in the war. And then people are going to start against it. U.S.'s role in this is a quagmire of a situation.
Mhm. And I think what they're trying to do is engage Syrian military, Russian military on the ground into a hand-to-hand combat situation. You're not going to go in there and create an aerial bombardment,
No, you're not.
and for obvious reasons, and um, it's going to force your ground troops to actually engage U.S. troops on the ground too. So what it sounds like to me is that the United States is basically saying, "Come on, come with it. We
And
ain't got nothing to lose."
but that's the thing, you got yes, you do. Well, to them, they do have this sort of I don't know. It's just a situation where,
Hmm.
like, dude, why are you over here? Why? You know, the whole destabilization thing is getting old. People don't understand, know what that's your MO, what you do, and they ain't looking at you. So you just wasting money at this time, wasting manpower, wasting military assets. You know, people are just over there getting suntans in the sun on base.
Hmm.
And
And the thing is that I think Trump wants to pull out of Syria, and I think he's already pretty much have, but they've basically stuck a bunch of these guys up there as what do you call that? It's just basically security guards, inside these military bases they built inside Syria, and um, they're basically a tripwire, so that if you hit one of them, it's like, oh, well, you killed one of our guys. Well, those guys weren't going to fight anyways.
All right. And then the ironic part about it is, okay, they're not going to win contracts to rebuild the country. They're just
No.
destroying. They're just continuously destroying things left and right, right?
Hmm.
Which creates more jobs for Russia and Iran
Hmm.
when they win contracts. So you only thing you doing is just putting money in a long run into your enemy's pockets, and you know, and you losing money by prolonging this.
Well, I think the objective is to prolong the war, or create as many quagmires as possible until they get Assad out. The thing is, Assad has already dug his heels into the ground. Says, I'm not going anywhere. So if they think that they're going to run that pipeline from Qatar into
Turkey is
it, uh, through Syria, up to the coast, up to Israel, it's not going to happen.
uh,
Arabs are not going to tolerate that. The Arabs are not going to tolerate an illegal pipeline, or what they consider to be illegal in their country, and that you can only use refugees and humans for so long before people catch on. With social media.
so they're trying to run that pipeline from Qatar to Israel.
Right.
Get the fuck, come on.
That would solidify Israel's place in terms of like being an energy port for the Mediterranean, right?
No, not gonna happen. That
Well,
shit will not happen.
I mean that's the game plan, right?
That's just a
It's not
waste
gonna.
of money.
You just had this week, and we should have probably posted on the docket. Um,
Ceasefire.
no, the Turkish South Stream pipeline from Russia it's been completed this
Oh
week.
yeah, yeah, I did see that. I did see that.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Russia's supplying a lot of people with energy.
Yeah, so that pipeline goes from Russia to Turkey up through Bulgaria and up through Europe, Southern Europe. So the idea of Qatar setting up a pipeline through Syria up to Turkey and up to Europe to to supply gas, that's not going to happen now. It's
Yeah, it's
already
no
done.
before. Right.
The
No,
war's
we don't
over
need
now.
you guys. Right. So what are you fighting for? You just wasting money and killing people. You know, it's golly. And with Russia pipelines, they don't have to go through no war infested areas to supply Europe. Because the whole goal was in the Middle East was to supply Europe with oil.
Mm.
But you got to go through these war infested areas that's full of tribal fighting and people wanting their own state, such as the Kurds, and just a lot of disruptive forces. But Russia's right there supplying Europe with oil, and they have to go through the most they got to go through is maybe paying politicians off, maybe. Nah, yeah, they fight a losing war here, buddy.
Right. What's going on, Garner Dan?
God damn, what's going on?
Let's hit this next article. Um,
But you know what? I don't know, man. Hope they got a plan.
all right, this one is from AlJazeera.com. U.S. targets Iran-Russia network over oil sent to Syria. See, vessels carrying Iranian oil have switched off transponders to conceal deliveries to Syria. Treasury Department says. We see their buddies are in this picture right here.
That's
Um,
ISIS.
yeah.
I think it it's not showing as full screen on the
Oh, sorry about that. You see it now?
yeah, 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 it's good. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'll read the first paragraph. The United States has targeted an Iranian Russian network that sent millions of barrels of oil to Syria and hundreds of millions of dollars to stupid antivirus, anti-gravity, whatever it is. Hundreds of millions of dollars to indirectly fund the groups Hamas and Hezbollah. The complicated arrangement described by the U.S. Treasury in a statement on Tuesday involved a Syrian citizen using his Russian-based company to ship Iranian oil to Syria with the aid of a Russian state-owned company. So basically, you have Syrians on the ground who have their own, who are either being used or have their own companies inside Russia to facilitate the transport of goods, which is oil, commodities, from Iran into Syria and use that as a way to wash money for money laundering to supply Hezbollah and Hamas and any other groups in the region. Um, I think that's a clever way of doing it. I mean, it's obvious that you have sanctions being put on Russia and the rest of the the rest of the countries. Iran is another one that has sanctions. Syria has sanctions on it. Iraq has sanctions on it, or at least they had. Hezbollah has sanctions on it. Hamas has sanctions on it. So obviously, there's going to be a way to they're trying to figure out a way to get around the whole entire sanctions thing. This all comes down to Bitcoin because a lot of the time um, they're using Bitcoin to actually move this money.
Mm. It's just like we said in the other article. It's just a cluster. As they say in the military, a clusterfuck. It's I don't. I'm obviously we're not privy to certain information as to why they may be doing this, or even if it's not any uh a a a a plan in which why they're doing this that makes sense. Even if they just are doing this to just cause trouble. Um, this is they're just wasting money, man. What are you getting out of this?
Well, it's to destabilize the place. Basically trash the house as much as possible.
Oh, again, I understand. That I understand. You keep a country from developing. I understand that part. That's that's a strategy.
Hmm.
But you're wasting money doing it, and it's setting your economy. Well, your own people are getting killed in the process. You're making enemies. Um, to my view, it's causing more problems for you than you're causing problems to the people you're doing it to.
Hmm.
If you were, America is protected by the ocean. If you were over there, you wouldn't be doing this to at least to the extent you're doing it. You have problems, but you see what I'm trying to go with this?
Yeah, if you go back to World War II, they really wasn't. The United States wasn't affected
No.
by the war at all. I mean, they were very close to it, but they weren't really affected by it. I mean, you had German U-boats in the Atlantic, off the coast of Cape Cod, up in Maine, New York Harbor. They were all up and down the East Coast, so they were ready for a strike. So, I mean, they sank a lot of vessels in the Atlantic. I think something like 300 vessels. So
Mm,
turned into a graveyard. So it wasn't really that hard for them to stay out of the war, per se.
mm. And then they only entered the war during the last few months, right?
Yeah, 43. The war ended in early 45.
So they avoided a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it was a calculated move.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next article. This one is from Sputnik. Israel is capable of taking out S-300 and S-400, but won't do this, publicist says. Let me read the first paragraph. Deployment of the Russian-made S-300 in Syria has not brought an end to Israeli military operations in the region. Israeli publicist Agvidor Eskin has told Sputnik. Um, Regardless of this, Israel does not have any intention to spoil its working relations with Moscow. No shit.
Hmm.
In October, actually, let me read the bolded paragraph. The issue is rather political, not military, Eskin said. Eskin explained. Israel does not want to harm positive and constructive relations with Russia. We do not want to demonstrate our far advanced superiority over Russian air forces. We have
Ooh.
no intentions of controlling Syria, and therefore we will always look for friendly compromise with Russians. Sure.
They
In
said
October,
what?
we do not we do not want to demonstrate our far advanced superiority over Russian air forces. We have no intentions of controlling Syria, and therefore we will always look for friendly compromise with the Russians. In
Mm.
October, Moscow delivered the S-300 system to Syria following the accidental downing of the Russian Il-20 surveillance plane by Syrian forces in September 2018. The incident was blamed on the IAF, Israeli Air Force, which was conducting military operations in Syrian airspace at the time of the tragedy. Tel Aviv vehemently denied the accusations. So, I
Mm.
don't know. What's your take on this?
Uh, they are feeling themselves. When they said that, we don't want to show our superior capability over and shoot down another country's top-notch surface-to-air missile um, military gear. Um, it's like saying, well, yeah, we know what you're capable of, but our stuff is still top-notch, and it. Remember when you were younger kids, you could say, "I can do that too, but I don't want to." It's like that. It's even though they said it in a professional way, it's still childish. Um, yeah, uh, either Putin is smirking and laughing about this, or I mean, come on, Israel. You didn't Netanyahu just go to Moscow a couple months ago to try to break a deal with Russia?
Yeah, that was in September.
Yeah, yeah, they're not gonna do nothing.
Well, so they have the capabilities of flying through the airspace. They've done it in the past, right? So the way how they bombed Saddam's nuclear facility was that they were flying at street level. Basically, they were flying the F-15, the F-16 or the F-15 at street level at the height of a car. So um, to avoid radar, which they successfully did, and they was able to take out those that nuclear facility. They actually played Saddam Hussein in that event. However, what I'm saying here is that Israel can't keep up with the Russian military at this point. The F-35 that they have actually has been taken out of service.
Mm,
Syria shot one of those down in the summertime. So with the Buk, I think if I remember correctly, it was the Buk M2 or M3. Um, shot one of those down right over in the Golan Heights. So you can play the game all you want to, um, but the problem is once you approach the Russians from that perspective, then what's your fallback?
yeah, you
You
don't have
either
it.
yeah, Americans don't want to fight with the Russians over Israel. They'll fight the Russians over the Americans, but they're not going to fight over Israel. This is not going to happen.
Yeah, Israel not going to do anything. They just saying what they saying just to be saying it. They're not. Now, granted, yeah, they can shoot down Russian s- uh, service to air over. their territory or maybe even neighboring territory, but
Mhm.
Russia has too much military equipment to for Israel to handle. It's not going.
Well, don't forget that they have they just put the Su-57 inside Syria this week. And they actually flew 10 missions already, bombing the leftover terrorists. Let me read the chat, see if there's anything in the chat real quick. Yeah, Keep It Techie says Israel has the best air force in the world next to the U.S. They should, because it's pretty much the U.S. Air Force anyways. Um, Paul Bryant says, I don't know about that. Sukhoi has the Sukhoi and the MiG are equal to, if not better than, the F-22. So the Su-57 is actually the equivalent of an F-35,
Hmm.
fifth generation.
Now, my only pushback would be, okay, they may have the capabilities on par or better than other militaries, but they may not have the manpower for people to fly those planes. That's the that's the dividing factor. If Israel, what Israel's total population is what,
A few million.
a few million, and you fight in a country, let's say America, say Israel fight America. America's population is 300 million, so their military may be a percentage of their total weighted population, and then people that's able to fly those planes may be a percentage of that. So just by pure numbers, even though they may have 2,000 airplane jets, they may not have 2,000 people to fly those jets. So yeah, the capabilities may be great, but they don't have enough people to fly these highly capable jets. You know.
Well, the thing is, uh, Russia's surface-to-surface missiles could actually take out Israeli airstrips. So they wouldn't be able to get their planes off the ground. That would be the first thing.
Hmm.
And then you have to factor in that um, if you're talking about dealing with Lebanon, because you have to worry about Lebanon, the Hezbollah coming through the south, through your south flank, or the south flank of Lebanon, or the northern flank of Israel. They could easily overrun Israel.
Hmm.
They got about maybe 10,000 fighters on the border. You get 10,000 fighters on the border with anti-tank guided missiles and enough Kalashnikovs and uh, cyber warfare capabilities to actually jam up your radars. You're in a pickle now, because once you get those fighters into your country, you can't get them out.
Right. Now, what about this? Israel's in a war with another country, and now they already made enemies of their neighboring countries, and some people may take that chance to get back. You know, like we said mentioned before, people don't forget. So it it depends, I guess. It depends.
If they plan on taking out the S-300s, right? I mean, Russia says that's a declaration of war. Um,
Hmm.
they're not going to use those planes. But what they will do is they'll find some guys on the ground that they can pay to go in there and basically destroy them. With some TNT or some other sort of explosive, and just completely destroy them, take them offline, take the battery offline,
Mm.
and then they'll fly their jets in there, and then they'll take them out. Because once the capabilities of respond is offline, then it doesn't matter if you fly those jets in or not. I mean, they're not going to be taken down. There's no response.
Hence why Israel is heavy in cyber warfare. They have to be because of their limited manpower. they have to be a lot of militaries are connected to uh, cyber or technical know-how, so they have to be that way in order to they have to be strong in that field in order to have a chance to win the war. Because if you can ground a country's jets for a period of time, then that's good for you.
So keep in mind that Netanyahu's cabinet, the Prime Minister of Israel, has basically abandoned him. So your defense minister is gone. Lieberman is gone. Your health minister is gone. Your minister of education gone. Everybody who's around Netanyahu right now that would support him for a war is actually gone now. This has all happened in the last 2 weeks.
Hmm. Now I saw something where people were saying, other people want to run for prime minister of Israel, but the analyst was saying Netanyahu is the most seasoned and, in so many words, intelligent of the people that would replace him. So who, maybe you got to take
Lieberman,
into it. Right. Because he stepped down as the defense
defense
ministry, right?
minister.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, because he said if he comes into power, he's gonna just take over Palestine and Gaza.
He's a real strong racist. Like, I mean, you think Trump is bad, or you think that David Duke is bad, but this guy is a real strong racist.
Mm.
Has no regards at all.
So if he gets the power, I know Ghana. Well, Netanyahu proposed Ghana to help Israel get back into the AU. If he gets into power, and that's gonna look bad on Ghana, President Adu Akofu. Yes, if this guy is really racist, yeah, that's not a good look, Ghana. Or yeah. So Israel really, not Israel, Palestine is really going to be in it if he can comes into office.
Yeah, he'll take everything that he can.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I'm gonna have to mute up for a minute here.
phone calls, no text messages, no nothing. You're offline.
Right.
By the time they figured out that there was no dial tone on the phone, those Russian tanks were already making their way up into to the capital. So I mean, if Israel feels that they're bold enough to take out the take out those missile systems, good luck.
Well, we'll see.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to mute up here for a minute.
Yes, sir. All right, let me get to this last one here. The last one for the docket is this one is from WGB, not WGBS, but PBS's Frontline, Documenting Hate, New American Nazis. Can anybody in the chat hear me?
I think you're still online because I can hear you though.
Yeah, it says that it says wait while we try to reconnect you. All right. Let me wait for this commercial to finish playing. All right, this one is from PBS Frontline, Documenting Hate, New American Nazis. Uh, I know you guys probably not have seen this, but it just came out last night. Wait for this finish playing. All right, basically what we're looking at here is the new documentary that came out last night, focusing on American Nazis. You know, this new white supremacist movement happening during the Trump administration. This new explosion of millennial white millennials who are joining the military to actually get skills and to bring the war back home, so to speak, and turn it against blacks, Jews, non-whites. You know, this sort of war being prepped up by by these white supremacists, and Trump saying nothing about it. You know, the president of the United States is saying nothing about it. It's I think it's about an hour long. The link is in the description, and if you guys want to watch it, it's actually pretty interesting and pretty thought provoking. I know. Do you have anything you want to add to this? Nope, that's fine. Um, so the white supremacist group is called Adam Waffen, which in German stands for atomic weapon, and they're actually a white nationalist group, which should be called a white supremacist group. And they have this agenda to be a leaderless network of conscripts for the protection of the white race and the supremacy aspect of white nationalism. That somehow, some way, the black people needs to be taken out. And they mentioned Dylan Roof as being one of the offshoot members. Uh, and the reason why Dylan Roof actually shot up the church in Charleston, South Carolina, was because he felt that none of the other white supremacists were actually taking action, and he wanted to take action. He thought that you know um, the groups weren't active enough. So in this regard, what you see out here in what is this Charlottesville last year. This was another guy who decided that he was going to take matters into his own hands and he was going to take out somebody. So this is what America is dissolving into. I mean, people want to pretend like this has always been going on and there's nothing you can do about it. But that's to me, that's a coward's approach. I think that if you're a black, you should be you should know what's going on. Yeah, that's right. Anti gravity. They are an international terrorist group. But they've penetrated the military. They penetrated law enforcement. They penetrated um, other other lines of businesses in this country in order to get themselves ahead. Meanwhile, on YouTube, on Black YouTube, people are discussing weave and uh, uh, um, other areas of non-importance. These guys are ramping up right behind the scenes. What's going on, Anti-Gravity?
I'm doing good, brother. What about you guys? Looks like slight technical difficulty. Okay, well, Mike is coming back. Yeah. Oh, there you are. Oh, you good, Mike?
Yeah, I actually got knocked off for a second.
Okay. Yeah, I think as I was saying in the chat, this is like a international terrorist organization, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and I think I don't know if I told you guys this before, but there was a FBI report I think that came out in 2012, where the FBI was saying that white supremacist groups and individuals were infiltrating DOJ, the FBI, local law enforcement, and sheriff offices across the country. So it's been a concerted effort. So I guess it's not. I guess the face of it is some of these kind of quirkier guys, the guys with the tiki torches and whatnot. But there's more serious people in the background. It looks to me, in my estimation, and they're hooking up with other, far right white nationalist groups around the world, like some in South Africa, others in uh, Germany. I think you mentioned earlier, as well as in
Ukraine.
Russia and Ukraine. But yeah, well, but what do you think is, I guess, Russia's um, kind of what they've how should I put it put it basically, Russia has been funding a lot of right wing groups across Europe, mostly as a destabilization effort. But what do you think about their contribution to, white nationalism growing throughout Europe, and then now, I guess, more forcefully here in the United States?
I don't think it's the Russians doing it. I mean, because you've always had far right groups, right? And Russia has to deal with far right groups in their country too. See a lot of the FSB actually cracking down on a lot of that stuff. Um, my my position is that these groups were always there. They were just suppressed for quite some time until certain government officials actually took office. So what they've been able to do is they've been able to politicize their views and um, they've been able to politicize their views and actually get into office through through democracy. And now once they take control, like in places like Greece, they you have these far right movements that actually got into office and actually are using their power, their political power, to suppress people. And what's interesting is that these Sloboda Party, which is basically a Ukrainian Nazi party, has been getting their arms from Israel. The Israeli government has been
Right.
supplying them weapons, and those guys have been getting training. Um, they've been getting training to take down Russians. On top of the
All
fact
right.
that they've been training with white nationalists in America, so you've had white nationalists traveling back and forth between the United States and Ukraine, getting training. Now you have Ukrainian Sloboda Party members in the United States working with white nationalists on the ground. And meanwhile, on Black YouTube, people are sitting around talking about weave and beauty and non-essentials. Doesn't make any sense to me.
All right. Now, looking at this from a strategic point of view, well, possible strategic point of view, you have these nationalists, and I didn't look at the program, but from what you're saying, they say they want to take out black people. Mainly, the first people they say they want to take out is black people, right?
Mhm.
Normally, when
Really?
you
Is that what they said? I thought basically the linchpin of the ideologies people go after the Jewish people first.
Well, they blame the Jewish people for the conditions of the country, but they hate black people just as much.
yeah, and so the number one people they seem to always bring up is black people as being the culprit.
And Muslims.
Okay, this is where I say they cowards
Hmm.
because form a group such as this it's in response to something. It's in response to a perceived attack on your well-being from another people. Well, in right now, in the case of America, I understand their perceived historical enemy was blacks in America. But now your perceived enemy, a threat to your well-being, is not. It's damn near everybody else except black people. It's Asians, it's Hispanics, it's Muslims, it's uh um is Israelis. Those are the people that are buying up your land, buying up the um the businesses in your neighborhood, to your neighborhoods, gentrifying them. Those are the people that are doing it. So you're picking a fight with people that aren't even a threat to you in any way, because like you said, when you go on Black YouTube, only thing we talking about is bullshit. But you're picking a fight with people that are talking about bullshit and fighting amongst themselves. Meanwhile, you're leaving the people alone that are literally creating China city, that are coming in here illegally through California, Texas, and uh, Florida, taking over. There, who are going to become the largest minority group in America in a few years. But you choose to fight the people that are no threat to you. That, in my view, which makes them cowards, because you don't dare to pick up that type of anger against. You always say, "Oh, black people, black people." I understand they say Muslim and everybody else, but they also the number one people they say is black people. That, in my view, I think they cowards in that point of view, because they don't take the initiative if they were serious to fight a perceived enemy that is actually encroaching on their territory.
Hmm. Anti gravity.
I just have to disagree a little bit. I think they bring up black people just, I'm not saying that they don't have a problem or a beef with them, but really, this is kind of what I think is, funny in a really, messed up way is Israel, not, selling arms and training and funding to white nationalist groups because, in a certain way, they kind of work together, right? But who they really hate is the Jews, right? Even among white evangelicals, they're the strongest supporters of Israel. But they support Israel not because they support Jewish people, but they believe that, and it's a crazy idea, that if Israel is strong, eventually they'll start World War III, and then they will go, and then Jesus will come down. That's basically their ideology, the right wing Christian ideology. So on either side, really the central tenets of the white supremacy is Jews are controlling the world. They're creating these conditions. Like even when those guys in Charlottesville were marching, I think people kind of maybe didn't understand what they were saying when they were saying the Jews will not replace us. They didn't mean the Jews physically would replace them, as in there will be more Jewish people. They meant the Jews are not going to send Hispanics and Mexicans and black people and Muslims to replace us. That's really what they meant.
I gotta disagree with that, because if they were the outside of that Pittsburgh synagogue shooting, the only people that's been catching hell are black people. You don't see none of you don't see any physical retaliation, or not retaliation, but physical um force against any other people except black people. And if and I don't think they're that complex to say the Jews will not replace us by and and and, and covertly meaning by sending in every other people. Black people are fighting amongst themselves.
Mm.
Hispanics, they if I just think that if they meant every other by sending in every other people, they would say by sending in every other people. You will see it on YouTube. They will come
No,
out
that's
and
what they
say,
talk about, though. No, they say it openly. It's just that people don't particularly pay attention to it. But the reason you're seeing that they have a lot of violence against black people is because black people are an easy target, right?
that's
Um,
why I say they cowards.
no, I know, but it's not that they don't want to attack the Jewish people. Is they see themselves as they can't yet. But you're seeing it. You're starting to see it now. Even the Anti-Defamation League is, putting out reports that hate crimes against Jews has been the highest, in several decades, or a few decades, I should say.
And
Right?
you should also
Good.
see crimes against Hispanics. You should also see crimes in these Chinatowns. I mean, Asians are taking over the West Coast. You should also see hate crimes against any other people. If these people were serious and seeing these people as perceived threats, you would see them um, attacking a lot of other people that are actually threatening their way of life, except trying to attack the lowest hanging fruit, which is black people. That's why I say they're cowards in that way, because if they were smart, they would direct their hate towards someone, toward their actual perceived enemy.
Hmm. Well,
Right,
Except,
but it's
yeah,
not really that. But I guess it's not politically correct to say, but the most powerful minority group in the country is the Jewish people, not as like a conspiratorial, that kind of thing, but it's just the way it is,
right,
right?
yeah, agree
Because
with you.
there was, they have their and it's because that they're really organized, and they're very close knit, in many respects. So, and they have a lot of political clout. So going after them is not going to be easy because they have people who will fight back for them, right? So, and at least in the black community, they don't have that kind of infrastructure behind them, as well as a lot of Jewish people, they have their own country, Israel, which has huge political influence in the United States.
APAC.
Yeah, with APAC.
Now, technically, you just really making my point, because yeah, they may say, well, we can't attack them because they have power. So let's just use all our forces to attack the lowest hanging fruit. You know that that's cowardice. You're gonna attack some people that can't defend themselves, but you refuse to attack the people that have the power. Every time in school, when you were younger, people say, well, if you were really bad, you will fight the baddest person, and the baddest people are the Israels, well, the Jewish people here in America, and then the up and coming um, per population, the Hispanics, which includes Mexicans, and per the second largest, the people that make more money you at your own jobs are Asians. But you don't, no, 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 no. We can't attack those people right now because we don't have the power. So we're going to attack freaking wildebeest. And you cowards. You not, as these Poogies and Ray Ray say, you not about that life.
Well, let's look at it from a different perspective, right? Like Noah is saying that the Jewish people have political power, so they have political infrastructure they rely on. Black people don't have that political infrastructure because we have not organized that for ourselves. So we've kind of somewhat done that to ourselves.
Hmm.
And you would think that there's an urgency to actually embark on an agenda, but what you see is
Is that you or
Stacey
me?
Abrams. What you see is Stacey Abrams in Georgia fighting for sanitary, sanctuary cities. Um, you have women talking about transgender issues. Meanwhile, you got these guys loading up with ammunition, high explosives, ammonia nitrate. Things that can bring down buildings, going into synagogues, going into mosques. Meanwhile, the police. law enforcement is watching Somalis in Minnesota, LA, Boston, New York. Why are you watching these people, but you're not watching these other guys? Right? So we have all types of forces working against us, and no one has the guts or the balls to step up and say, hey, something needs to be done. Outside of the brain trust, I don't hear anybody else in these mean black YouTube streets talking about this.
Now, one thing I will give to them as thinking, they are creating a leaderless organization, meaning there's no one head to cut off. You know, they may have the same agenda, different chapters may have the same agenda, well, should have the same agenda, but they're all going at it together. So there's no one leader where you can just attack and the group somewhat fails. Just go plateau. But
That actually kind of happened already, so I think that's why they're doing it. For
well,
example,
yeah, that's what
Richard
I'm saying.
Spencer,
Yeah,
those guys.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I give it to them in that regard, that they actually are rethinking this strategy. But
They're
still,
basically preparing for insurgency. That's
right.
in a sense, yeah.
But still, if you were really about what you're talking about, like we will not be replaced by this, then will go after this, and this, and stop trying to kill. You will go after the bear and not and stop killing these dogs. The dogs aren't messing with you. It's the bears that are taking your food and encroaching on your territory, but you
No,
refuse to.
I agree. I agree with you line out, but that's it's yet. That's the I guess what I was
Well,
trying
we'll
to
see.
say.
We'll see. I
Because
mean,
if it keeps going the way that it's going now, then you'll see more of that, right?
especially when it's the economy correct itself, everybody's gonna be you're gonna see a lot of people on YouTube talking about, oh, the Zionists. If you're gonna get that, you're gonna get people on YouTube saying the Zionists is they want to wreck American society, and you get a spike in those type of videos, and they still attack black people. They cowards
Mhm.
because yeah. Go ahead.
No, I guess your point is saying that black people are actually are the weaker class, and that you're preying upon them.
Right. Yeah.
Well, well, black people are the adversaries of white people in this country, anyways. So, whether or not we have political power, it almost becomes a moot point because we're still not doing what we need to be doing, anyways. And like I said before, you have these black politicians, especially these women, these black women, talking about student loans, um, sanctuary cities, transgender rights, same-sex bathrooms. These guys are working on bombs, improvised vehicle-based explosion devices, um, going into
Yeah, they're
synagogues.
they're actually learning from the tactics that international terrorist organizations use.
Hmm.
For example, that guy who drove his truck in Canada.
Hmm.
Where did he learn that from? Right, France.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The European tax, right? So, you know, you would think that the African Union, as a body, would step up and say we need to take a more stronger approach to these guys. Say something. Don't just sit on the sideline. See, this is where I have a problem with Africans who come to this country and they take advantage of the opportunities that black people fought for, and then they try to pretend like, oh, we're not all the same. I'm not your brother. Blah 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 blah. They
Right.
they have an ability to put out a message to the U.S. government and to the rest of the governments around, in Europe, Western governments, and say these guys who are part of Adam Watham, and these other white nationalist groups, they're on the no-fly list. You can't even fly over no part of Africa to get to Europe at all, or else we'll just bring your plane down. That type of deal.
Hmm.
That you have to send a strong message like that, and that mosque that is attacked in these predominantly black areas. Where's the Somalian government? Why aren't they saying anything? Right? Why isn't the Somalian government speaking up? Where's the Nigerians
Right.
who come to this country and take advantage of these resources and opportunities that black people have created long ago? Where are they at? See,
And then the crazy part about it is a lot of Africans that come here, they live amongst white people.
mhm.
So they are the first ones. If anything real significant were to jump off, they will be the first ones to feel the full force of it.
Right. So what we're going to need is more political organization to ensure that our needs and our security is actually met. We need an African American Union, an AAU,
Hmm.
and we need a security force. I think the Jewish people have something called a Jewish Defense Force or something like that, JDF or something to that effect.
What, here
Um,
in America?
yeah, and they actually Israel actually recruits those guys to go into the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, and actually go fight in Palestine, in Gaza.
To be honest with you, I believe, and I would want this. I want this to come to fruition. That African American community would need to become more of a patriarchal society than than what you see now. What you see, if you going to call it gynocracy or matriarchy, it's not working, because when these black women get in the office and they get some type of power,
Hmm.
they act as oppressors to black men. We can't allow these women to become have power within AAU. It's not going to happen. It's not going to succeed the way we want to succeed. So Black America needs to become a patriarchal society within American society. If we have an AA, well, no, we have an AAU. It would have to be more male heavy than anything. Because if you let these women in, they're going to tear it down.
Well, I think Texas had something like what 17 judges, black female judges, get appointed
Hmm.
recently. So I mean, Ray on these these black YouTube streets, the consensus is that Ray and Pookie are the alpha males, and they'll defend the community. They're the
Man,
ones.
fuck them niggas, man. Them the first ones I shoot. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Yeah, them one of the first ones I shoot. They talking about 2/3 against us. No, go on that front line and prove your manhood, and not to have these women amongst the ranks of AAU. I'm telling you, they will bring this shit down. They will tear it down from the inside.
You don't think their tattoos would scare the enemy?
And you got tattoos too. they they it's ridiculous, because they don't these guys, as MLT would say, these low C guys, they don't have the military they don't have the military tactical know-how and training to fight a political, even a physical or mental chessboard war. They don't. You can tell in the streets when they want to shoot up people, they start shooting everybody else except the person they're trying to shoot. They don't know it. And to say that they are the real men of the community is a highly insulting thing to say. These guys are ignorant. These guys are stupid. And the only thing they do is yell and scream. That's the only thing they do. And these women, they will tear your organization down from top to bottom if you allow them to get power. If you allow them to have any type of guiding power, they'll tear it down. Black American society needs to be a patriarchal society and run by what these people call intellectual lions, whatever you call it. It will need to be run by these people who have the understanding, know-how, and the brain power to get things done, to know when to shut up, and to know when to talk, and to know when to play a political move. It will need to be run by those people.
Right. And to speak on at least the political front, I think at the same time, a lot of the blame can't be necessarily put on the black female politicians. at least in the sense that who
Have you
are the people that are funding them? Because
have you seen any
good.
breakdown how politicians are ran? She said even before you get in the house, you were visited by someone.
Oh yeah, that video I sent you guys. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was a whistleblower, a congresswoman.
right.
I forget her name. Something
So
Cynthia
Knowles,
McKinney,
I think.
yeah, Cynthia
McKinney. Yeah,
McKinney.
doctor.
yeah.
So
She said. Oh, good.
No, I
so
just say
even
Doctor
go ahead,
Cynthia
go ahead.
McKinney.
Yeah, Dr. Cynthia McKinney. I don't know she had a doctorate degree, but I mean, you sent the video out. I mean, do you think these women have the uteruses to stand up against that? And then she said she
But
knows somebody that did some things to get in good. Come on now, what do you think that could have been? Fucking bedwetching, man.
well,
These women are bedwetching, and
well,
you want them to put it. You want to put them in power?
I don't think that's what she meant. I guess maybe just to let people just to explain what the video was. Basically, it was Dr. Cynthia McKinney. She was a former congresswoman of Georgia, and she was at an interview talking about kind of the systemic corruption of American politics, where she said that basically in this in the American political system, if it even looks like you're going to be the front runner in the election, whether it's the primary or the general, interest groups will be coming to you. Could those interest groups be? She even talked about ones where she said where she was talking about the reason why Democrat and Republican politicians never speak out against Israel is because of this kind of political lobbying. They come out to that candidate and they say, "Oh, we want you to make this pledge that you will support Israel as a country, or you'll support fossil fuels, or you'll do these things. Here's this contract. We'll put some money in your super PAC. We'll put some money in your campaign. We want you to do this for us. And if you don't, they have a stick always. They're carrot and stick. So if you do what we want, you get all these perks. If you don't do what we want, you know, uh, they'll do, operation. What do they call those? Basically hit pieces, dig up dirt on you, uh, you know, um, will fund your opposition, whatever it takes for you to do what they want you to do. And she basically, I think the most important one I took from that actually was that it's not necessarily any one political interest group. It's whichever one gets to the politician first, you know, and that's the key part. I think that's where we come in. If we are able to get to the politicians, before they get into the office, and we make them sign pledges, that's in our interest, then whether whoever they might be, whether they're Republican, Democrat, black, white, female, male, they're going to do what you want them to do because you're the one who, for lack of a better term, you've bought that politician, you've co-opted them.
Well, again, and see, this is kind of like my point about you need an African American Union. You need some. You need a Gaddafi type of dude in America. I mean, you could say that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is probably the next closest thing to that, but he's 85 years old. Like I don't think we should be relying on him to move the agenda. I think that you need a younger under 40 type of Julian type of Malema type of person to move the agenda. And what I'm seeing on YouTube, I'm not seeing those type of guys, man. I'm seeing guys who black men who do rags on, trying to battle PhD graduates, and I just I don't see the fight in these type of guys. I don't see the masculinity in these types of black men. I just see that there's just a bunch of guys who huff and puff and attack other people on their hangouts. But when you come to the brain trust, we're constantly trying to provide information and dissemination of information so that you guys can actually walk away with something. And when we talk about counterterrorism and these yo-yos who are running around the country talking about white power and this is make America great again. In order to make America great again, like they said in the video, you have to make it white again. It doesn't make any sense, right? Why is that not the focal point for us to organize?
But then this is my thing again. Also, it's been said in America, the people that are going to supplant white people will be Hispanic people.
Mhm.
So if this is documented and you say, well, to make America great again, to make it white again, but in order to, so you are organizing this group, it seems to me that you would fight the people that are encroaching on what you believe would make America great again. It's the people that are going to supplant your numbers, which are Hispanic people, but you don't.
But they do though, like now,
Not
because
as much as black people.
no, I
Not
know,
as much
but
as black
you know, at least as of recently, when Trump has come in, you know, this whole illegal immigration debate, you know, or talk,
but they
it's
still
basically,
coming in though.
yeah, it's a shorthand for, you know, we need to keep
But
Hispanic people out of the country. We need
yeah,
to
but they still
disenfranchise their
coming
voting.
in. They coming in much larger numbers than the few people that you separate from their parents.
Right, but in terms of, you know, the I guess you could put it, the rhetoric, the policies, the banning, you know, trying to remove kind of states and cities from being, you know, sanctuary cities,
Hmm.
sanctuary states. This is kind of a, you know, that's what they're doing, is that the fight that you're speaking of, that's the beginning stages of it, you know what I mean?
Well, until we see it more, I don't. These people just talking. They're
Right,
just
but
talking.
also in terms of, you know, black people being low hanging fruit, as you know, Mike brought up earlier, you know, with, in regards to the political power, I also think, you know, after what was that shooting that Dylan Roof did, I forget what the
And
church
Charleston,
was.
yeah,
Charleston.
Yeah, Charleston shooting. Like the thing that really infuriated me the most is, you know, they hadn't even buried their family members yet, and the first thing they were saying is, "We forgive him."
yeah.
A guy who gave zero fucks,
And
you
it,
know.
and the main people saying it's a bunch of fucking women, man. That's why I
I,
said,
So you know, when people
I
see that,
forgive him. I forgive him.
right.
well, I don't want to go that far, but in terms of even the news, I remember, I think it was CNN. It was Erin Burnett. She was, you know, making you know, reporting on it, and even she was a little confused. She was like, "Oh, that's, you know, very big of them," you know, something to that extent. You could tell in the back of her head, she said, "I'm not forgiving anyone who did that, would do that
Very
to my family."
dumb of them. I mean,
So,
straight up
so
slaughter.
that kind of makes you look weak on the national stage. You know, it looks like you're being the bigger person. You're
No,
doing it for Jesus Christ or whoever.
fuck him too.
But it makes you, but it does make you look weak, right? You can't quote from one part of the Bible and not quote from the other parts, right?
I'm sorry
You can't say
because
Jesus forgives all people, you know, since sure, but at the same time, you know, he said, "I didn't come to bring you the word; I came to bring you the sword."
listen,
So if white nationalists are quoting that side of the Bible, and you're quoting the turn the other cheek side, it's not a fair fight, you know?
listen. The type of Jesus Christ they promote, fuck him. I'm talking about the real foot as bronze brother that will say, okay, enough preaching. You know, we got to swing some hands here. Him, I stand behind him. But for you to say after your family then got up, shot up in cold blood, to say I forgive the person that did this is disrespectful to your family members. It's like marrying your sister's killer. What type of shit? You know, it's it's laughable that these people would say, I forgive the person that killed my mother. I forgive the person that killed my family. You fucking idiot. You know, like you just gonna continue to get killed. And
Right.
then when
And
you
they
and
always
then when
bring
you
those
point
fake tears.
and
Go ahead.
then the crazy part about it, when you tell them to stand up, have a backbone, all of a sudden they want to fight you. You fucking what? will fucking lay you out.
I don't want to put too much emphasis behind the victims, right? I don't think that their mind is in the right state, but I do
Right.
have a problem with brothers, who are in New York. I won't mention any names. They're constantly battling each other over who has more knowledge about Kemet.
Ancient Egypt.
Yeah, it's just Commissions and all this other stuff. How come you guys aren't talking about this? You want to raise money for a news van, but you don't want to have a real conversation about this.
Like the conversations we talk about after show, like the technical analysis of this and that, like the real conversations that we should be talking about with more and more black men. That's the real conversation. That's where you really get in and rebuild your economies up, make these food deserts into food havens of fresh fruits and vegetables, and build and give these men jobs. Not, oh brother, you see the ancient Egypts, they flew in the sky with clay plank, man. And then these women that want to say, oh, I feel that America,
Well, I'm still, again, I don't want to focus too much on the female aspect, but I do want to focus on the men aspect. Where are the men
Mhm.
at? Where are the men?
Mm.
But like you said earlier, on these, I think these me and YouTube streets, black YouTube streets are a micro example of what Black America is. You have a very small minority that are really in it for the change, but the vast majority is in it for entertainment here, talking, who, like you say, who has more knowledge. I think these black YouTube streets is a microcosm of Black America.
And maybe the brain trust probably exists in the YouTube suburbs. We're not a part of that.
Right.
We're a part of the manosphere, but we're not a part of the the Dusty Beta Mel Coon talking points that some people want to use. And maybe they do have a legitimate question by asking, what are black men doing to combat white supremacy? And we're having this conversation now because of this video that just came out last night. The new American Nazis. What are black
Mhm.
men doing?
Right. I think the core issue is kind of that self development piece, because it's not a 1 day, 1 month, 1 year thing. It's a lifetime. I don't even think a majority of black men have to go into any kind of advocacy or anything like that. It's just if they improve on themselves, if they do what they need to do, that will advance the agenda more than you know being some kind of scammer in LA teaching people, pretending to teach people about how to combat white supremacy by whatever they say. Yeah, you know what that guy is.
I mean, we literally need our own agencies. I'm talking about not personal agency, but actual threat intelligence, threat
Hmm.
investigation, guys who can mitigate, a threat mitigation force. I mean, you have, the Huey P. Newton Gun Club, but I don't think the onus should be put on those guys all the way down to Texas. I mean, I've seen videos of them on YouTube and other forms of social media where they've driven to Mississippi, Alabama to respond to black people being attacked. They've defended mosques all around, the South when white supremacists have showed up, and they've driven these white supremacists out. So they're nothing to be played with. And if there was a way for me to finance them, I definitely open up my wallet to them. I tip my hat to those cats, man. They really put in a lot of work. Um,
Right.
in the north, we don't have anything like that. We have a bunch of guys with do rags on their heads and in their barbershop lectures. That's about the extent of their masculinity. They'll call you to the parking lot and want to fight you, and you know, on these mean YouTube streets. But when it comes to actually putting in some serious work, they're nowhere to be found. Like those same Proud Boys that were in Charlottesville, they actually came to Boston, and we confined them to a 1 block radius. They couldn't even get out. They needed police to actually escort them out. So
Right. And it's not even just about that level of the ones that you're talking about in Texas. There's also I guess higher level ones like a lot the 80 what do you call it the ADFL, the Anti Defamation League, for example. They track hate crimes and that kind of thing. It's a Jewish organization, and they do that in the effort to mobilize political and a campaign, whatever support is needed in order to combat it, right? So they track these hate crimes, they track neo-Nazi groups, and then they try to combat it from that level as well. So we need something to that extent as well.
I apologize for the outburst on this open mic part, but
It's all good, man.
And what's interesting too is that the law enforcement is, they're spying on these mosques. They're looking at Black Lives Matter, but these guys are getting away with all. These guys I'm referring to, these white nationalists, they're infiltrating the military. They're in law enforcement. They're taking advantage of federal services such as VA, not VA home loans, veteran assistance loans and things of that nature, and they're getting these houses and going into schools, become doctors and lawyers and infiltrating government. Meanwhile, black people are being stopped and frisked in New York. Black people being stopped and frisked in Chicago for
Right. They
crimes they
got
haven't even
guys
committed.
like, oh, good.
For crimes they haven't even committed, and you got black Democrats running around talking about, yeah, I'm for open borders. I love sanctuary cities. You know, bring
Right.
them all on.
And I think it's misplaced priorities, right? Because a lot of the white supremacists they have not a senator, a congressman, like what's his name, Steve King, openly talking about all sorts of wild stuff. And they had even up until recently Attorney General uh, Jeff Sessions. That guy is basically a Ku Klux Klan member without the hood.
Hood
What was that?
without the white robe and hood.
Yeah, that's basically what he is, right? He profited off of the the drug wars in Alabama by being invested in prisons, private prisons. So you got guys like that already in Congress. But if you look at black men, who do they have in Congress representing them? It's not the Black Caucus. I'm not sure who they're representing, but it's not us.
More like the cock is.
hmm
Jeff in the chat has a question. Do you think Neely Fuller's book should be every black male's blueprint on how to think, act, and behave? There's a lot of things I agree with Neely Fuller on, and then there's some things I don't. I do find some of his thinking kind of outdated for modern times, but I think it's relevant. I think you should read it.
that's the independent.
Statutory Code of
Yeah, it's a long title. Yeah, it's the white. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The independence. I can't remember the name of it.
Intergalactic.
Something, but it's a long name.
Right. And I don't think it has to be confined to any one particular book. I think a knowledge of history, if you look into,
hmm
not even in particular like a black history, I mean, African history, but of course you can learn from that as well. But just from the history here in the United States, you can see a lot of the blueprint of what people did because history repeats itself because the people who are repeating it are looking at what happened in the past and using that as a as their playbook, right? Like the white nationalists here in America, they're looking at the playbook of Nazi Germany. They're seeing how did they do it then, and what parts can we take and recreate it here. The United States has always had Nazis, so
But
none of this is new.
this is the thing. They doing what they need to do. If they feel a perceived threat is this, they're bearing up arms to stop their perceived threat. That's what militaries were. You understand that that's what countries and militaries and people do, even down to animals. They are going to stop their perceived threat. So they're doing what they need to do on that front. My main beef is with black people. We are uh, backwards. We do need, even with if we have an AAU, which I am all for, it needs to be, everybody's not going to join. Albeit everybody doesn't need to join, but everybody's, when I say everybody, it's going to be a small number of people running it.
I don't think everyone should join either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know,
It's
that's
going to
the
be a
thing.
small
Yeah.
number of people like us running it compared to the number of people we're going to need to protect. So it's going to be, the power of the AEU is going to be in the hands of a small minority of black people. So that's all I got to say for tonight.
Hey, what's up, Ulysses?
What's going on, Complex?
Yo, what's going on? Did somebody say black people?
It's good, yeah.
Nothing much, man. I was just I'm getting out late, man. I'm just getting in from like the workshop, man. So I was listening in though, it was like intermittent, so I was trying to catch up, follow on with the conversation.
Yeah. So, what do you think about what we were saying so far?
Well, I now again it was kind of intermittent. So I think what you guys were kind of talking about was the responsibility or of I guess like of elect black men to kind of I mean it was I was kind of
The
catching it in bits
the
and
the
parts.
the conversation started with the last video on the docket, which is about new documentary that came out last night called "The New American Nazis" on PBS, which goes over these new millennial sort of Nazis who are infiltrating the military, infiltrating law enforcement, having all these tactics, training in Europe with all the far right groups, um, and their agenda is to basically take over the government, kill black people, kill Jews, kill Muslims, um,
Hmm.
and basically subjugate everybody into a fascist sort of state. Um, I've
Hmm.
also heard some other talks maybe a few weeks ago about talking about using white nationalists going into Haiti and actually taking over Haiti or one of these other Caribbean islands.
Hmm.
I mean, they have the
Oh,
manpower to do so, and then they're using higher power explosives. I mean, anything close to a dirty nuke. I mean, I think a couple
right.
of years ago there was an actual white supremacist who was arrested on charges of having a dirty nuke, a nuclear weapon. So he had all the material.
I mean, I can totally see how you know for this sort of this kind of new America, right? That we kind of find ourselves in. They've kind of fit the bill, right? As the guys who would kind of fill the ranks of like any sort of mercenary clans or someone to go do the dirty work, right? Take out some niggers and, you know, plant a flag for America, you know.
MAGA.
They totally, right? They totally seem like the type. I guess my view on it is that I've always gone on an assumption, right, that you're just gonna have a segment of those dudes that are gonna be like that, right? Like, and I think that pretty much everywhere else in the world just assumes that, when it comes to the white Anglo-Saxon who's right leaning, this is largely the action that they're going to take because history has pretty much shown that this is what they're going to do. So I ultimately, though, in the macro view, you know, you ultimately black folks, Jews, okay, whatever, right? Hispanics, Latinos, okay. Have a problem with them, sure. Ultimately your real problem is the Chinese, and you ain't fucking with them. So it's kind of like I don't know, dude. Like I would take I would take a pragmatic approach if I was like a hate-filled white dude, right? I would just kind of be like, you know what, I'm gonna go into my little bunker cave. I'm just gonna like live out my days.
But I mean, when have hate-filled white men ever been pragmatic?
Never.
Right?
They've always been overarching in their objectives, dude. It's like, like you can't maintain this type of global hegemony, in the way that you've done it. It's impossible. Can't happen.
Hmm. And what we were discussing earlier before you came on was that you have law enforcement monitoring Muslims, monitoring Somalis in L.A., Minnesota, Boston, New York.
Mhm.
Um, they're monitoring Black Lives Matter. They have stop and frisk policies, pulling over black men in New York and Boston and Chicago and L.A. You know, all of these forces working against black people. You have
Mhm.
these black female politicians who are running for for state governors and other places in Senate. Talking about we need open borders and sanctuary cities, transgender
Mhm.
rights, same-sex bathrooms, and they're not talking about this.
Yeah. Well, I would say, so you brought up, a lot of, we've had a lot of black women ascend to positions of political power, especially with this recent political cycle. I'm of the view that you do with them that you would do with any politician if you are serious about your agenda. You buy them, right? Great. They're in a position. Put some money in their pocket and then call in a goddamn favor when it's time to call it in. Put them to work for you. That's how I view it. I'm like, great, perfect. But if you're gonna take the money, you're gonna execute the favor when I call it in, and that's pretty much what the relationship needs to be. I don't see a problem with it. I guess the issue here is that you have to have men who have agendas, who which those women in those positions, you can then leverage them. You can use them, right, to push your agenda. But men have to have a goddamn agenda first and foremost. So,
Mhm.
it's kind of like cart before the horse.
Right. And
Right.
we in these mean YouTube streets, I would, these mean YouTube black streets, I don't think that I think the black brain trust is in the suburbs. I think we're far removed from any
Yeah.
of the dusty beta male coon talking points, your comedic comedian, you know, anthropologists and historians, people with little paintbrushes playing in the Mali desert looking for castles and
Trying
things like that.
trying to fire the pyramids back up.
Right, right. We seem to be um, far removed from anything tangible, and you have schools in Chicago closing down, 50 plus schools in Chicago closing down. You have uh,
Mhm.
fourth industrial revolution taking place, and the only thing these guys
Yep.
on YouTube seem to be concerned about is whether it's women's beauty or it's um,
Yep.
rumbles happening, just things that are not important. Whether or not black men or black people respect the police, and where is everybody's head at? Where is the Nigerian government? Where is the Somali government? Where is the African Union
Hmm.
that discusses, the monitoring of these people by law enforcement? And why isn't the African Union taking a more stronger approach by saying those white supremacists in your country are on the blacklist of our country, of the African Union, from a security standpoint, and those guys are not allowed to come here, and we're putting this out on Front Street. Like
Because
Richard Spencer cannot get a JetBlue flight to Ghana. That's not
right,
going to happen.
that's not going to happen, right? Because we don't have any, we don't have enough. We don't have enough interests that are intrinsically linked. Like, and I mean, like interests of like of substantial value, intrinsically linked, right? Where certain things are going to be ironclad, right, in terms of protecting that channel of trade, from one continent to the other, right? If you have a robust line of trade taking place,
Hmm.
there's just certain shit you're gonna cut out and weed out and ensure doesn't get doesn't seep into what it is that you're doing, right? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to maintain, whatever additions to your GDP
Hmm.
is coming from America to say Nigeria or whatever country you had indicated, and vice versa, right? See, so when you have strong trade ties, you have less tolerance for bullshit. And when you have strong trade ties, you also have more of a firm position to assert some shit. Like, so it's just so like, yeah, we get you got crazy shit going on in America, but here, check this out. That dude that talking that crazy shit, he ain't coming here. We're just letting you know. And this is what you would let your ambassadors, or whoever, in the embassies that would exist in your country. You let that ambassador know, hey, check this out, contact your folks over there, let them know that guy ain't coming here. He is
Right.
not coming here. And that's how that it's that cut and dry. I mean, we don't we don't really like we don't really kind of stand on our square in a position where we just kind of assert our shit like that. Just boom, there it is. Like, nah, that ain't happening.
Hmm.
We don't do that. So I mean, damn, I don't know,
Yeah.
man.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, do
And
you
in
think?
regards, oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just gonna say, do you think that we need like a armada of like bird scooters with like black men and do rags coming down the street? You know, we should not be moved or something like that. I mean, can we
Yeah.
get armored bird scooters like with
Well, no,
like
I was gonna say.
flashy
I
strobe
was,
lights on there?
yeah, I was gonna say the signs don't have them handwritten, dude. They should be lit up with LEDs.
Right.
Right.
We should be pulling over like anybody with Confederate flags on the back of the trucks, you know, and making sounds with our mouths like police cars, like police sirens.
Like what's that movie
You're a
called?
bad man.
Police Academy.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
No, no, but
Hold
what's
on,
going on,
Jack.
brothers? What's going on?
What's going on,
So,
man? What's going on?
not
We got
much,
about
man. You
five more
guys,
minutes before we wrap up.
all right, real quick. I want to say this. I think what should matter the most to Black people in America is gaining power, right? And I think, from my observation, I think we failed at that, right? And people priorities are on entertainment, on you know, uh, pretty much self gain, but not as a collective of growing power as a whole. And I think that's what we failed. Um, I think the way to do that is, again, if we had our own party, or we pull our resources together to buy a politician, like that article that Anti Gravity put out, or that video that he put out, like that says it right there. And I think this is the main problem, man. We failed. I don't see the power. I don't see. I think we have wealthy Black people out here, but I don't see any power being exerted. And that's why you can have these white nationalists who come to your neighborhoods and shoot up the place, and nobody. What kind of crap is that? Talking about, you talking about, we forgive them. Like it's usually females doing that.
Hmm.
I don't see men. Men are usually the ones who want to um fight back, but they don't show that on TV. Even with this whole midterm elections. On
Hmm.
another, this on a side note,
Hmm.
every panel they ask is always, I've noticed, and I know you said this too, Mike, but I didn't really see it till I watched it. It was all middle-aged white women who live in the suburbs. They never asked a panel of black men. They never asked black men anything. If they ask a black man, it's a gay black guy. So I noticed that they don't really include us in anything. And the crazy thing about it is that when black women want to run everything, but when they come in your neighborhood and start shooting up in these white nationals start shooting up your neighborhood, who are they gonna run to for protection? They're gonna run to us, right? So I think
Right.
we failed as power.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
think what I'm saying here is I agree with some of your talking points, but the black YouTube is only as conscious as it's digestible for entertainment. It's never about anything tangible, and I think that the Brain Trust has put
Yep.
in a lot of work every single episode, and we're on what episode is this? 96.
90, man. Yeah, 90 something.
We're on 96, and every single episode we put out solutions, but people don't actually even hit the like button to say that they agree or they disagree. It's just one of those things. I don't think that black people are taking this seriously enough. These guys are taking it seriously. These white nationalists. They're
I was
traveling
gonna say
to Ukraine.
that's a,
They're in Europe with the far right. You had a white woman on YouTube, Lauren Southern, who was over there in Europe, helping the white supremacists shoot these rubber boats, these rubber crafts in the Mediterranean to try to sink them to make the migrants drown.
Right. Right.
and now I look. I guess I'm not of the view that like so you go tit for tat, right? So then all of a sudden we should have black folks going to places and you know flinging arrows at white folks doing something weird somewhere, right? I'm not. I think based on what it is that we discuss on a lot of these hangouts, and these aren't just like hangouts where we're just talking, right? There's there's actually something behind it. There's something to it. It's a lot of actionable intel. So so then it's incumbent upon the listener to one have an interest in something, right? To see a correlation between what it is that we're discussing and that interest, and to find the actionable intel in what it is that we're discussing, a lot of the business modeling that we put out, et cetera, right? And then act on it, and then do something with it. You know what I mean? And then start to reach out to other brothers to coalesce around general interests, right? Whether it's tech, is it science, is it computer tech, is it I don't know. I mean, you slice it up in any number of categories, but you know damn, dude, the impetus lies on the individual, man. Like people are gonna have to. We can only do so much as far as what we do, and then we have our own individual things that we do, and then there's the stuff that we do collectively that we don't necessarily talk about too much, right? But that's just us.
Yeah,
That's just
I
that,
think
you know.
I think every black man listening to this should go out and get their LCS, their license to carry, LTC. Sorry,
Hmm.
you should be registering your state to carry. No, there's no sense in having the Second Amendment if you're not going to practice it.
Right. Yeah. I guess my finishing statements is the price. I forget who says this, but the price of liberty and freedom is eternal vigilance, right? So even in this scenario where you buy politicians and you get them into office, they start voting for your interest, in Congress or in your local state houses. It's not like I guess the fight is done, right? Or if you start a business, it's not over. You still have to continuously, keep building, continuously, keeping a watchful eye. It'll never stop. But that's the kind of the price you have to pay. That's life. You
Well,
always
well,
have to be vigilant.
well, Noah, I think that's why institutions are important because see, you can create an institution that outlives you. Right. We
Exactly.
we talked
Yeah.
we talked about like some of like these Japanese firms whose business plans extend 500 years into the future, right? So that right there is a clear-cut, perfect example of what you're talking about. If you have a 500-year agenda, a 500-year business model, a 500-year plan, okay, then you damn well have considered, right, that this is going to extend long past you. So once you've taken that, once you've taken that action, that approach, well, then that means everything is going to be set in motion. You've already set something in place that's going to extend far beyond you. Even the people to come after you is going to extend beyond them. So they need to get on board with the correct agenda or get the fuck out.
Right. That's also part of the vigilance. Starting those
Right. Exactly.
institutions, keeping them strong. But then at the same time, you can't, I guess, leave it to its own devices because they can always be, either co-opted or corrupted. That's kind of the the eternal vigilance. I was speaking of. You know, have guides, have people that come after you that follow, the guidelines, the rules, that see the vision that you made that when you were first starting it, and then have them, continue on that, and then also teach it to generation after them. So that's so everything you do, you also have to make sure that you all have an eye on it as well. Is
Yeah.
I guess my
Well, for those in the know, that is the whole point of secret societies. Just throwing that out there.
Well, you don't think that they have secret societies on YouTube where they sit on hangouts for 8 hours talking about comic books?
Oh God.
Anyways, I think what we'll do is we'll shut it down here. We did kind of go over about a couple minutes, so we'll be back on Friday because Black Friday special for economics, episode 97.
Yeah.
Have a lot to talk about on there.
Money, money, money.
Yes, sir. So thank you all for joining us. Enjoy your holiday, and we are out.
Peace.
Peace, everyone.